Well, officially welcome everyone to Straight Outta Lockdown. As it says on all the social media, preparing for re-entry, key considerations for employers and employees returning to work, opening up North America again. I'm your host, Humble Howard from the Humble and Fred Show in Toronto, Canada. We've been all over the world with our podcast for the last 10 years, as well as Sirius XM and part of the Bell Radio Network here in Toronto. Barb Paluskowicz, of course, from CDN Technologies, is our host. Hello, Barb. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? How is everybody? How are all my friends, my handsome friends?
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we go around the room before we get started and get into the meat of the webinar, and let's just say hello to everyone. Why don't you just identify who you are, and maybe even where you are, and then we'll get started with some of the questions. I don't even know the order, but let's start with Henry.
Hey, Howard. Hey, everybody. My name's Henry Overton. I'm president and one of the founders of Turnkey Solutions. We're a managed security provider and IT company here in Southeast Louisiana.
Next up on our panel, thank you, Henry, is Jeff Kuhn. Jeff, say hello.
Thanks, Howard. My name is Jeff Kuhn of New England IT Partners. I'm a co-owner. We're based up in New Hampshire, but our client base is primarily New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Fantastic. And next to you on the panel is right in the middle, I think the center square is David Downs.
Hey, Howard, thanks. I'm David Downs. I'm from Kansas City. I'm CEO and founder of Pro Computer Solutions, and we're a managed service provider here in the Midwest.
Very nice. And thanks for joining us as well. Tim Meredith, good day to you, sir.
Hey, I'm Tim Meredith, owner of Holston and Gardner IT. We're in Bristol, Tennessee. We have a shop in Panama City, Florida also.
Excellent, and great to have you along. With the bottom row is Al Alper.
Al Alper, CEO and Chief Window Washer of Absolute Logic. We're an IT and security firm here in Wilton, Connecticut, in the shadow or footprint, if you would, of New York City.
Fantastic. Along with your row mate is Will Nobles. Will?
Howard and everybody, good to join you guys. So I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the CEO of Vector Choice Technology Systems. We're an IT consulting and managed services company here in Atlanta, and we have a few other offices in the East Coast.
Fantastic. Along with Michael Einbinder Schatz. I know I got most of that right because
you did well, Howard. That's good. Hey, I'm Michael Einbinder Schatz. My company is Gobeka Technology Group. I am not based out of the beach in Sarasota, Florida, behind me. We're based outside of the Philadelphia area, managed service provider for 24 years, which explains all the gray hair.
It was great to have you along. And last but not least, on the very bottom row is Mr. Paul Nebb. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Howard. Hey, everyone watching. Thanks for joining, and thanks for having me as part of the panel today. Paul Nebb, I'm the CEO of Titan Technologies. We're an IT managed service provider in New Jersey.
And you know what, Barb, everyone knows you from our show and here in Southern Ontario, but for those people watching, maybe you can introduce yourself and then I'll sort of talk about the format and how people can participate.
Oh, thank you, Howard, and hello, everyone. It's great being here with you all. You know, if you've ever had that feeling of tension when you have a deadline to meet and then all of a sudden you try to log into your computer system and you can't, or you pick up the phone and there's no dial tone, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, well, my business systems are down again. And then you get that feeling where everything gets like super tight in your chest and you're just like, oh my goodness, what happened? What's going on? How am I going to get everything done? Well, I'm Barb Paluskowicz. I'm the CEO of CDN Technologies, which is based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And what we do here at cdntechnologies.com, and the same with my peers, is we make sure that you don't have anxiety or panic attacks when it comes to your business technology, that you always know that we got your back 24/7, 365.
Fantastic. Just before we get started with some questions, I'm just going to let you know that if you're watching, we appreciate it. You can ask some questions. I have access to the panel here, and I'll relay anything that we may miss. But I think we're going to cover a lot of stuff. And just for reference, we're social distancing here, okay? So no one's getting any virus on them, and hopefully not any virus in your computer. So let's get started, because these are difficult times, and I've been listening to Barb talk over the last few months on our show about some of the unique, things that are happening in the world, but let's just talk about it at the very basic level. What is the number one problem that IT people are seeing right now? And Barb, it's your webinar. Why don't you start answering that question?
All right. Well, what I've noticed and what we've all noticed is that companies that have professional IT people on staff, those IT people are really good at managing all the technologies under one roof at one location. But because of COVID, it's now multiple roofs and multiple locations of 30, 40, 50 people scattered throughout the city or throughout the region. And not a lot of people have experience in managing technologies for multiple locations, let alone being able to support them like 24/7, 365. So I know at CDN Technologies, we've been receiving a lot of calls from IT professionals that are asking for help, that are asking for our expertise. Because there's one problem that we all have, and we're all afraid of it, whether we're in IT or what industry we're in. And that is being a victim of ransomware, getting a crypto locker virus. No one wants to go through a data breach or a cyber attack, especially if you've gone through one again. So at cdntechnologies.com, what we've been doing is sharing our resources with other IT professionals that work for companies to support them and to help them get through everything and to keep their businesses moving forward in a positive direction.
That's excellent. Let's get Al Alper from Wilton, Connecticut, Absolute Logic. Just see on what we just asked Barb, the number one problem that IT people are seeing. We could have never imagined so many people going home and setting up workspaces. What are the problems that you're seeing with that, Al?
So in terms of, we look at IT through the lens of security, so to speak. I mean, that's our primary focus. How not only do we make sure that environments are highly efficient, people are highly productive, uptime, et cetera, but what a traditional MSP would do, but we view everything through the lens of security. And perhaps the single biggest thing that IT people are seeing is that the four corners of an office have expanded to the four corners of everybody's individual houses. And so extending that envelope of effectiveness, efficiency, and security is an extraordinary challenge. Most internal IT teams, and to some degree some MSPs, are just not equipped, nor do they understand what that expanded envelope looks like. So if you think about when we expanded one of our clients, who are now fully at home permanently, by the way, so they're going to give about a $6,000 a month rent and walk away from that. I mean, they're almost done. So to be fair, they're not walking away from somebody, because I would certainly not condone that. But they're going to save somewhere in the magnitude of $72,000, which goes right to the bottom line, right? So that goes right to all of the owners' pockets. But simultaneously, they have to deal with the fact that the home computer that some people were using is also used by kids, is also used by their husband or wife, is also used by et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you extend that security blanket to all those environments? Some of them have gone to the extreme and bought home business stations where they've set it up, excuse me. And so that's the only thing they could use it for, and we would lock it down as if we locked everything else down. More and more, though, we found that moving them up to a hosted desktop in the cloud, a WVD environment, is really working out well, because that gives them the ability to extend their infrastructure their in-place infrastructure into the cloud without changing anything that they're doing today. And then they can operate on anything, whether it's an iPad or a Windows Surface or a home machine, because the extension of the security blanket from the office exists in the cloud, and anything they do locally isn't going to change. And that's been very good for us, but it's also good for the internal IT teams who now understand that already because it's their extension of their environment, and they can move forward with that.
I was going to say, Al, that'll also, we can expand more about that because I think that's fascinating. When we talk about the challenges of transporting and porting IT security, as you said, now you're not doing bricks and mortar anymore. You're trying to keep people secure in far-flung parts of the city. What about you, Dave Downs, Pro Computer Solutions, Blue Springs, Missouri, the Show Me State, I think that's what it's called. Is that right?
That's right.
Show me.
We got the Show Me State over here in Kansas City. We are we've kind of trailed the nation in COVID cases so far. It's interesting to watch as people are going back to work, and the issues that we're seeing from an IT standpoint are kind of what Al addressed. Sort of like when we went into this thing, it was like immediately, like almost without preparedness, we have everybody working from home. Now people are coming back to the office and they're back in their office machines. We're using things that we never used before. I mean, like we're doing this Zoom meeting now. Well, tons of people had never hosted a Zoom meeting before. We're supporting that. We're supporting telemedicine. As we get back in, from the security standpoint of everything, how do we make sure that, we're taking care of, wherever people want to work. They come to the office and then they change the rules and then they go back home. We're having to remind people, that, they're doing contact tracing now. Well, you got to keep that secure from everybody in your company. So that's kind of the stuff we're looking at right now.
And as I said to Al, I think a lot of these are going to kind of be part of our second question, because these are all the challenges that companies are facing working from home, and companies like yours are all involved in trying to make sure that those are secure and safe and they continue to run. So let's just start with Will Nobles, Vector Choice Atlanta, Georgia. Will, the question is kind of on what we were talking about. The number one problem IT people are seeing is part of the challenges of working from home for people and keeping them secure.
That's a lot of good question, and a lot of things that happened in March. Everybody's like, oh my God, how do I work from home? What does my employees do? And that's a lot of questions we were getting. And we've been doing it for 5 years. As Vector Choice, we've been working from home for 5 years. So it wasn't a big change for us. But it was educating people how to do it. Of course, you have the family home with COVID, everything shut down. So you got kids running around, you got dogs, you've got your housekeeper falling down the stairs, which just happened right before this webinar started. And so you got everything going on. And so it's finding the right place to have a quiet place to work, and also monitoring your employees. There's different KPIs, key performance indicators, that you have to pivot and monitor in different ways when people are working from home. So it can be done. It works for us. Like I said, we've been doing it for 5 years with multiple locations. But and also just not having the proper equipment. So when you're at the office, you have a firewall in front of you and to protect you. But at the house, everybody just has a regular modem. So there's no firewall in place. So it's things like that that you have to start looking for as an IT provider, and as a company having your employees work from home. How do I make sure I secure those employees as they're working from their house?
Well, I can only imagine, again, from having conversations with Barb, that it's similar for all of you all, that, once it happened and people kind of got their heads around that we're all going home for a while, you all must have been a deluge of calls and questions and clients wondering what to do. And Al, maybe we'll get back to you, Al Alper. Talk a little bit about the challenges, because you were kind of heading there anyway, from dealing with clients who are now dealing with their employees who are now all at home.
So like everybody on this call, and perhaps like everybody listening to this call right now, we were inundated with requests for either new systems or new setups or new environments, whatever the case may be. I mean, we, from a business perspective, we probably did 50% of last year's overall revenue in 3 months. Just as a result of COVID-19. Because to know where we are 40 miles from the epicenter of the largest outbreak in the United States, Queens, New York. So we're literally 40 miles from the largest epicenter. So, and we have a large footprint of clients in the New York City area, both the surrounding as well as New York City proper. And everybody went home. Like the world, I say the world went on vacation. Granted, it's more serious than that, but the world went home and they still have to work. They still have to transact business. So needless to say, we got slammed with a ton of work to do as a result of that. We were equipped with it for like Will. We have a lot of our engineers who work remotely, so we were already set up to do that. And deploying that was reasonably easy. Relative to the challenges for our clients, and I was touching on it a little bit before, but it's bigger than that. You know, first and foremost, dealing with the fact that the four corners of their office now extended to the four corners of everybody's house. And the extension of the workplace, not just to a home office, but to the home living room and the home kitchen and the home ladies' room and the home wherever you're going to go, it doesn't matter, right? So and again, we're a security-centric MSP. So we look at things not just are your emails safe and is your data protected, but I worry about our clients' business. We deal mostly with the C-suite as opposed to with the purchasing department or the CTO or CIO. So we are advisors to the C-suite, and we speak to them about the expanded liability of someone extending themselves beyond the four corners of the office. And we brought in experts in that field in insurance and legal, et cetera, to advise our clients. We did a whole series of webinars just on what it means when your business is everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that was a valuable benefit to our clients that we heard from.
That's a very interesting point I think you make, that when, just like the rest of the world, you just start thinking, you start pulling at threads and you go, wait a second, now we got to talk about liability, not just security, but liability with our employees and our customers and our information. So Barb, just quickly to you, what are some of the challenges that CDN has seen with people working at home?
Well, I think that we were supporting them, like their workday started later, so we were supporting them later at night and early in the morning, because we do have 24/7 direct to tech support. Because I think that people from home realize that working from home is very different than what they thought it would be. And a lot of that has to do with the responsibility of kids. It's really hard to concentrate when you have kids running around saying, I'm bored, I'm hungry, he did this, she did that. And it's not something that you're used to. Mm-hmm. So notice that people were starting work a little bit later. And they were working a little bit later as well. Like they were traditionally working outside of the 9 to 5 bracket. And I actually got a little thank you gift today. So this is one of like the good parts about my job. And that was, dear Barb, you know, I just wanted to say thank you to you and your team at CDN Technologies. It took 3 months for me to get into a routine with husband, kids, dog, work, and life. If Jacob wasn't there to help me out with my computer Friday night, I wouldn't have been able to finish my job and go away with a clean slate for the weekend. Thank you, CDN, for being there. You guys rock, Suzanne. So yeah, you know, at CDN, we noticed that more people are working remotely. It's not all it's cracked up to be, and they're needing help outside of regular business hours, and they're calling in because we're direct to tech via phone or live chat.
Well, let's talk a little bit about business vulnerability, because Al kind of touched on it, and I want to pick up on that because, again, you know, no matter what business you think about, whether it's restaurants or, you know, IT security, there's always something you will, oh, I never would have imagined that. So let's talk about where businesses are vulnerable. Paul Nebb from Titan Technologies, Marlborough Township, New Jersey, and how proud you must be. I don't even know what that means. Paul, talk about business vulnerability and what are some of those things that we may not have considered at the beginning of all this?
Oh, unmute.
Can someone help him with the IT to unmute?
Our team's been brought in to supplement a lot of internal IT departments regularly, but especially during these times, preparing extra hardware to help a business in the process of going remote. Internal IT departments, they're great when it comes to the day-to-day stuff, fixing printers, putting out new computers, and they do a great job at that. But they don't often have the time to focus on the strategic parts of IT and the IT department, from the highest level down to the lowest level. And so that's where they turn to us to help them with their operational efficiency. Many IT organizations and IT directors, they're not aware of the newest technologies because they're so busy doing their day-to-day jobs.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Michael Einbinder-Schatz of Jobeka Technology Group, Bristol, Pennsylvania. Maybe you can talk about some of those things that make businesses more vulnerable right now.
Well, first of all, I'm not wearing a hat, but I'll take my mask off to you for nailing it perfectly. That was, for many people, even my family members, they still get it wrong after all these years.
Hey, Michael, I'm an MOT. You know what I'm talking about, son.
Absolutely, I know what you're talking about. And
by the way, that's code, other white people. Don't worry about that.
And you're a professional. So there's two ways to approach the security vulnerabilities right now, or really where businesses are vulnerable. Al nailed it. I mean, I could just say what he said, and I'm pointing down to, I don't know, is it Marcia or Greg on my screen? It could be somewhere else. But the truth is, there's many more.
I'm Alice.
Again, you have to be a certain age to get that reference,
Right.
But I loved it.
So, Al nailed it earlier. There's many more pathways into the business data now. And at first, like everyone else on this call, everyone listening, we were just slammed. It's taking an audience that is used to working in a certain environment, and you have some users who are used to and set up properly to work from home. Many of them have home firewalls or telecommuter devices. They're really locked down. They have lockdown devices. But now you're taking everybody, and they all have to work from home. And you have people who are completely unfamiliar with it. You have businesses having to make decisions on the run. Will's fortunate. He has a distributed employee base. We've had a distributed employee base for years too, but we've also had a centralized office. So we were prepared for it, but we had to, I'll use the term, we had to pivot quickly to helping the everyday user who had never worked from home. Mm-hmm. The everyday user who had potentially malware, ransomware, or the silent killer. How about bloatware on their home machines? Because the 3 kids are using the machine, or the cat crawled over the keyboard and accidentally downloaded some weather bug, or whatever it was, and you're used to a particular level of performance and productivity from the home user, and they're used to getting their job done, and now it's taking a lot longer. So there's that side of it. And of course, the more things slow down, the more risk you bring into your business, the potential risk for data loss, you actually are putting your business at risk. And the other side of it is that we have a lot of nonprofits here at Jobeka. So what did you do? When did this hit? For nonprofits, it's gala season. They raise a ton of their operational income in March, April, and May for a fiscal year that usually and often starts July 1st. So how did they adjust? I found myself having a lot of really in-depth conversations with the business owners, executive directors, board members of these organizations to talk about how could they engage with their donor base, how could they keep their business afloat. And I have to tell you, as a former engineer who fired myself 18 years ago from that side of the business, this is what I like doing more, which is engaging with the decision makers, the owners, the friends really that we've had at Jobeka in relationships that span decades. A lot of risk, not just all security wise, also on the financial side.
Doesn't get back to Will Nobles for this, just for a second, Will. Was it difficult? Did you have difficult conversations with businesses? Because there might be vulnerabilities that they don't even imagine that you had to sort of quickly address, or at least let them know that this was where they might be exposed.
Yeah, 2020 has been a very interesting year in a lot of cases, not just COVID, but riots and everything else that's going on in the world. And especially in Atlanta, like right now, our governor just declared 1,000 National Guards downtown Atlanta. So we're facing that. We have a Washington D.C. office where the rioting stuff is happening. So there's a lot going on. So there's a lot of conversations, not just from a cyber standpoint, but also, we're talking about where the business is vulnerable. I mean, God, they're vulnerable in so many directions right now. So we're having all kinds of different conversations, but more on the technology side of things. I mean, people are getting the COVID-19 spam emails, the IRS. I mean, taxes are due next week for everybody. The PPP loans, they're getting hit from all different directions because it's, the hackers are saying, hey, everybody's vulnerable. Everybody's on the fly trying to figure out the world right now, and let me hit them in all different directions. So unfortunately, just as us as business owners and other local business owners in all our cities, it's a mess right now. So 2020 has been a very interesting year for sure.
Yeah, no kidding.
Can I just jump onto that for 1 second? So one of the things that a lot of, and this is a great opportunity for every MSP, is to extend your relationship with the CEO. The legal implications as an employer of an employee working from home is a significant and serious vulnerability for businesses. And so having that conversation, bringing in relationships you have with attorneys to help inform your clients, is both an extraordinarily valuable benefit for your client, but it intimates you in a relationship with your client you would not otherwise be afforded an opportunity to do. If their workspace never changed from the four corners of the office, they can give a damn less about what you think about their employees. Yeah. But the fact that you understand that moving beyond those four corners means something in terms of labor law, and that you bring somebody in to inform that they probably never heard from anybody else in their circle of vendors before, is extraordinary.
No, I love that. I love the idea that you're solving a problem they didn't even think they had and then by doing so, cementing the relationship. Now, I'm looking forward to the next few questions, and I see that Tim Meredith, I don't have you on here. So do you want to just weigh in at any point and just what's your experience, Tim? You might want to unmute. I think Tim's watching another webinar. That's
sorry. No, there's a delay when I hit the unmute.
No, it's okay.
I started talking and I should have waited. How our business is vulnerable right now. Our clients are vulnerable. From the kids working on the computers at home.
Yeah.
And what are your kids gonna? Your kid needs to use the computer for school. Oh, what are you gonna do now? So a lot of our clients need extra computers. They need business grade computers. They need business grade antivirus. They need a VPN solution. They just can't use their stuff at home. Mm-hmm. It's a big vulnerability if they continue to use it.
And I can only imagine all of you have probably had the experience of having to bring some of your clients up to speed to advise them that they can't use the same computer that their kids are using. And that brings us to our next question. The biggest security concerns people have now are, and Henry Overton of Turnkey Solutions. Henry, in Baton Rouge and Louisiana. Henry, what would you tell people are the biggest security concerns?
Howard, thank you. I think this is going to be one of those what Al said kind of questions.
Oh, great.
Because
we'll just shut it down then.
Yeah, there we go. What Al said. No, the scariest thing for me when I talk with my clients is not this particular virus, this particular patch, this threat, this hack, whatever, because those happen minute by minute. The question and the biggest concern for me that I try to really stress to my clients, and I would tell everybody on this webinar, is focus and the energy around the thought process of security and compliance as a core function of your business. You would never, as a business owner, slack off on payroll, taxes, paying the utilities, those kind of things that require focus. And day one, you understand, I have to do this on a cycle, and I have to do this really, really well. And for us, we found that, we had a lot of customers building some great momentum towards the end of last year on what their security improvements were going to be this year. And so many of the big shops put pauses on all new projects that were, strictly security and proactive in nature, and they shifted everything to let's work from home. Mm-hmm. And those security initiatives that were really important got put on hold, and the focus and the time around their security and compliance meetings and reviews got put on hold. And so I just can't stress that enough, that the focus and mental energy and discipline around working a security program is, to me, the biggest security thing that any organization could put in place.
Right. Let's ask Jeff Coons, New England IT Partners, Londonderry, New Hampshire. Jeff, would you also say what Al said, or do you have something else to add to this?
Yes, I think I'll piggyback on a couple of other people.
Okay, I like that.
Obviously working.
WWAD. What would Al do?
Yeah. some of what Tim said as well. I think the biggest challenge is, shifting from the office to working from home. And I think, the biggest security vulnerability is the end users and the devices they're using, right? Some companies were prepared in terms of, your typical local business to enable remote access. There's a couple power users that would do it. They would have the solutions in place, or they had corporate laptops they could take home that had security solutions and monitoring solutions in place. But then there was other companies that didn't, right? So they're borrowing their kid's Chromebook in between Zoom calls to try to remote into the office, or, they're using the home computer and they don't have the tools to work remotely. So maybe they're emailing files that have confidential data in it that they shouldn't be to get to those files. They're installing Dropbox or other third-party applications that haven't been, vetted by the company as secure or implemented necessarily in the right way. And then once they log off for the night, the kids jump on and they're playing whatever Minecraft on there, and they're browsing social media, which this is another big security hole and a challenge that they have to overcome.
I think that's a great point. I think Barb's made that on our show a few times, that, if you're using the same computer as everyone else in the family, you're vulnerable to whatever their browsing habits are. Paul, Ned, would you agree?
Yes. What it really takes is awareness that cybercrime is the biggest threat to business today, according to Warren Buffett. It used to be we were in the office, a bill came in, opened the envelope, it would go through an approval process. Now a lot more invoices they were coming through by email before, now they're coming in even more by email and scans. Emails can come in designed to look like they're coming from the CEO, asking you to take care of an important task. Many of those are really phishing emails. So we got to go back to basics. And if you receive an email that looks like it's too good to be true, go ahead, call that person on the phone and say, hey, you really want me to pay that bill? Or call the vendor and say, hey, is this really right? This looks a little out of the ordinary. Don't just say, oh, we just got to do it.
It's we've had this conversation, Barb and I, and the show a few times about, you think about human nature and of all the things that human beings are dealing with, not just in America, but all over the world. Somewhere, someone saw this as an opportunity to try and screw people over, through phishing scams and through, what you just described. It's unbelievable when you think about it, preying upon people's vulnerabilities, not just IT-wise, but, human nature being what it is. But let's move on. Now, Tim Halston didn't get through. I don't see him here. So let's go back to Tim Meredith. And maybe you can think about this, Tim. The question, how has COVID impacted businesses reopening? From your standpoint, what are you seeing, and how has that been? Has it been smooth in your area?
We've seen a lot of businesses that have reopened that have a flood of business. There's like months of pent-up demand for their services.
Yeah.
And so now they're kind of experiencing the flood, but they try to just operate business as normal. So what that means is, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any appointments until 3 months out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're telling our clients, don't do that. Extend your hours, tell your employees to come in later, work a little bit harder, because what's going to happen if my doctor tells me, oh, I'm sorry, we can't get you an appointment for 3 months, I'm going to shop. I'm going to call and try and get an appointment somewhere else. And so you might be excited that, oh, there's a surge of business now, we're doing okay. But if you don't handle that surge quickly, they're going to shop and your business is going to trickle off.
Dave Downs, not so much from just a regular business opening issue. Have you found some IT issues upon reopening that, again, business owners may not have even thought about?
I think that, and everybody's talked about this from a cybersecurity thing, whether it was Al and certainly Michael was talking about it earlier also. We set up all of these, ad hoc VPN networks and stuff at the very beginning of this, so people could work from home. And now we're maybe coming back to the office, but in a lot of cases, like Al said, people are like, hey, why am I paying the rent? We're going to work from home. And so businesses really need to stop thinking, okay, well, this is good enough. I think it's a big cybersecurity risk for a business to think, okay, well, these people working at home with their VPN client on the computer that they're sharing with their kids, that's not a permanent work from home solution. They need to really think about building up that infrastructure and, owning the equipment at the house and having more permanent, solutions like VDI solutions and stuff like that.
It's interesting. Years ago, I did some work for a telco here in Canada. And they were just about 15 years ago starting to let their employees have the option of, working remotely. And here we are where everyone is thinking about working remotely, if not doing it. Henry Overton, what about working remotely and businesses reopening and some of the challenges that they're facing?
Forgot to unmute for a second there.
That's all right. You know what?
The work from home and reopening thing is the continued pressure on the core infrastructure. And I would put out there that there's a ton of IT issues, obvious, that my friends here have really expounded on really well. Here in Louisiana, what we're seeing is a very litigious state. And the legal ramifications around this this new work environment are insane. The mayor just issued a COVID-19 compliance form online where people can anonymously report whether or not the business is meeting what they believe to be, compliance mandates of masks and service and social distancing. So realistically, I would put out there from the non-technical perspective, the bigger risks and concerns in reopening are again kind of the focus and energy around all of the aspects.
Mm-hmm.
IT is terribly important. This has to be done strategically, and it has to be done effectively to think through this. So that's where having phenomenal partners who can think on the bigger scale is so important. But also bringing in that legal counsel and the owners of the businesses. We're just encouraging our clients to let's think through other things like policies and procedures. I may have never talked to you about a policy and procedure for things, but today we're talking to our customers about, we really got to think about the paperwork and how are you protecting your employees? How are you protecting your customers? And yourself against litigation, threats, viruses, physical and electronic.
You know what? I think that's a great point, Henry. And I think all of us, all of you for sure, have found yourself giving advice and counsel on matters that go beyond You know, is your computer working, and then do you have the proper malware? So as we wrap things up, and I've got 3 of you scheduled here, but I think all of you should take a shot at this, which is really the idea of what's the best advice for customers and clients, and obviously clients of yours who are customers. But you know, this is it's like the Wild West now. No one really knows what's going to happen. But in your terms, we'll start with Jeff, Tim, and Michael, but then everyone just think a little bit as we say, what's the best advice for a customer or a client? And then we're going to wrap things up. So we'll start with Jeff Coons.
Sure. So a large amount of our client base has smaller businesses that have an on-staff IT person, you know, 1 or 2 people. And typically their day involves firefighting issues, right? They're on the front lines of things. But as Barb mentioned earlier, they don't necessarily have the skill set to put in some of the more, you know, technical, you know, higher level solutions for remote access. So if you weren't already working with an IT provider and you're a small business with an IT staff, my recommendation would be to, you know, engage with an outsourced IT provider to help provide, you know, actually do a debrief, right? So when lockdown happened, what went right? What went wrong? What did we spend our time on? Do we still have challenges? Is there still security holes we need to fix? Because if you listen to the experts, they say there's a good chance that there's going to be a second wave come flu season, right? Fall, winter. You just want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row when you're ready to roll with a solution moving forward.
Michael Einbinder Schatz, my brother, what about you? What would you give as advice for a customer or a client?
I think that you have to re-examine everything. You have to look at this period of challenge as a period of opportunity. Both, now let me just put it this way. We're re-examining how you do business. We're re-examining how you work with your employees, how you work with your customers. The deeper conversations that I alluded to earlier, they included things like how do you engage with and do fundraising in a difficult time with a nonprofit. I also had a client who has a large commercial space, real estate, 300,000 square feet, asked me, because we were talking about the impacts on the real estate market. Al alluded earlier, he's got a client who's not going to need their office space anymore. So here I have a client who is in the commercial real estate space asking me, what do I think he should do to remain viable in that space? I have to tell you, I love those types of conversations because we get to engage on a deeper level. We get to help our clients examine what it is that they can do uniquely and position themselves to not only survive, but thrive in a time of challenge, in a time when everything is shaking up and working completely differently than what they were used to before. So that's the best advice that I can give to a client or a business, I should say. Look for the opportunity.
All right. Well, let's do, just before we close, let's give everyone a quick chance, like 30 seconds each. We'll start with Henry Overton. What's your thoughts? Customer, client, best advice you can give somebody.
What Al said. No, don't get tired. If there's ever a time to drink some coffee, whatever it takes to get you wound up, think this thing through, soup to nuts. We've got to focus on the bigger picture here. It's not just about the virus, not just about a hacker. It's not just about a quarantine. It's about how your business is going to thrive through this change.
Excellent. David Downs, what about you?
What Henry and Al said. No,
okay,
Michael, I think that 300,000 square feet, maybe a data center today is the place to go with that. I think, as I alluded to earlier, it's time to start making plans to make sure that you do have the infrastructure. It's, for a long time, the cloud's kind of been out there on the edge, and for the most part, people kept doing the same thing. But I think that all of a sudden, virtual desktops are a way to go, because no matter where you work, it's gonna go. Talk to your IT guy. We're out there. We're talking to lots of businesses. We have lots of ideas.
Tim Meredith, talk to your IT guy. What those guys said. Anything else?
Stop thinking of IT as just an expense. IT is an enabler, and your business is not going to be able to continue or go to the next level if you keep thinking of IT as just as an expense.
Fantastic. Al Alper, the most quoted individual on this panel today. What are your thoughts?
What they all said?
Yeah.
And actually they all, in some form or fashion, everybody has said that, and I'm sure those that come after will say similarly. We are, as MSPs, we are perhaps the single best resource every business owner has, and they may or may not realize it. We operate on a day-to-day basis in chaos. We don't just manage one business. We manage, I mean, we have 150 almost clients. I manage all of those businesses, every single vendor that interacts with them, every environment, every threat that attacks them. And we extend that beyond. We speak to their insurance carriers. We speak to their lawyers. We speak to them when they're looking whether or not they should expand, et cetera. We literally thrive in the chaos that they're now first going through as a result of COVID-19. So there is no single better advisor for a business than their MSP, because we don't just do it every day. We thrive on it, and we do it exceptionally well.
All right, very good. Paul Nebb, quickly, we've got a couple more minutes. What are your thoughts? Beside what Al just said, which again, 10 out of 10, Al. Paul, what did you want to say?
Hey, so one of my mentors has a phrase, and it's, you live or you learn, right? So not all of us came through this great. There are a lot of lessons learned, and this is an awesome time to have a debrief. Get down at the table, get with your team, involve your team. That includes us, your managed services, your IT provider. To echo a little bit of what Al said, not everything, even though it's all true. We do have a unique eye into your business, not only working with, your business, but other businesses like yours. We can kind of share that with you. We're great business mentors. It's part of the best parts about my job, about being an IT managed service provider, but working with other business owners, helping them through their challenges.
Oh, I tell you what, I hope others learned as much as I did today. It was fascinating and a great discussion. Barb, CDN Technologies here in Toronto, your final thoughts on what you've heard today, or maybe something to add on in terms of advice for customers and clients?
Well, I loved having everyone here with me on this webinar, so thank you. And the reason why is because I feel that in business, the scariest number is 1. There's no continuity in 1. There's no staff continuity if you only have one IT professional on staff that's taking care of everything from changing the toner cartridges, dealing with phishing attacks, and securing the network and making sure that no one is a victim of a cybercrime or ransomware or a virus. So I would recommend that everyone reach out to their MSP, just like what everyone said here on the panel, because technology and threats change daily. So shift the stress, get the knowledge from your local MSP, from your IT service provider like CDN Technologies here in Canada, and from your companies located all over North America for help on how to move forward in a positive direction.
Well, again, as just a regular layman, I can tell you that you never know what scams are coming. I don't know if you guys remember this weird scam that was going around a couple months ago where this guy was saying you should drink bleach and shine a light up your ass. I don't know if you heard about that, but that turned out to be wrong. And I got to be honest with you, if it wasn't for IT security, I might have fallen for that. Anyway.
No one wants a virus.
I know. Hey, listen, I'm thinking of upgrading from DOS. Do you guys have any thoughts? I'm kidding.
Stay with it. It's the most secure platform out there.
Stay on version 3.3, though. That's the one you want,
Listen, you guys, thank you very much for participating. And cdntechnologies.com. Of course, you can get a hold of Barb anytime. Barb, any final thoughts before we say so long? This will be available as a recording. If people want to have a copy of this, all that stuff.
Reach out to a certified IT professional to accompany your business move forward in a positive direction. Peace and love.
All right. Stay strong, America. Stay strong.